You know, it's one of the oldest debates there is, nature versus nurture. When it comes to how long we live, is it all just written in our genes? Or do the choices we make every single day actually matter more?
So let's get right into it. Is your lifespan kind of pre-programmed? A lot of people just assume, hey, it's all in my DNA. What can I do? But what if that's just not the whole story? What if something you have total control over, something you do every single day, could make a massive difference?
And that really gets to the heart of it. We're talking about genetic fate versus your daily choices. You know, the DNA you were handed versus what you put on your plate for dinner tonight. Which one truly moves the needle for a long, healthy life? Well, to figure that out, we can't just guess. We got to look at the science.
And lucky for us, a huge new study did exactly that. Scientists decided to dig for answers in one of the biggest, most detailed health databases in the entire world.
They use something called the UK Biobank. It's this enormous database of health information, and their goal was to finally sort out this messy relationship between our genes, what we eat, and how long we live. And they did it on a scale that's, well, it's pretty mind-blowing.
And I'm not kidding when I say massive. We're not talking about a few dozen people here. They looked at the lives of over 100,000 people. Think about that.
And this wasn't just a quick check-in. Nope. They followed these folks for, on average, more than 10 years, so they could see how habits and health played out over the long haul.
During that time, over 4,000 of the participants passed away. And this gave the researchers the really critical hard data they needed to see, okay, what factors are actually connected to a longer or shorter life?
All right, so they have all this incredible data. Where do they start? Well, the first thing they looked at was diet. They took a bunch of well-known healthy eating plans to see if they could find some kind of common theme.
Specifically, they looked at 5 different ones. Things like the Mediterranean diet, a healthy plant-based diet, the DASH diet. You might have heard of some of them. Now, they're all a bit different, right? But they're built on similar ideas, like fighting inflammation and getting lots of antioxidants. You know, all the good stuff for healthy aging. And here's the crazy part. Even though these diets aren't identical, when the scientists crunched the numbers, the message that came back was incredibly clear and consistent.
It basically boiled down to this, and it's so powerful. The more closely someone followed any of these healthy diets, the lower their risk of dying from, well, from anything.
So how much lower are we talking? The people who ate the healthiest had up to a 24% lower risk of death. I mean, that's a huge deal. That's not a small change.
And you can see it right here in the data from the study. Just look at this table. For every single diet they tracked, as people's diet score got better, moving from the lowest group on the left to the highest on the right, their risk of death just kept dropping. It's a straight line down. Better diet, lower risk. Simple as that.
Okay, so it's pretty clear that a healthy diet is a powerhouse. But that brings us right back to the beginning, doesn't it? What about the genes? What about our DNA? Well, the researchers were wondering the same thing, so they put it to the test.
To figure this out, they used this really cool tool called a polygenic risk score. The easiest way to think about it is like a genetic report card. It looks at a ton of your genetic information to basically score your natural inherited chances for a long life.
And this is where it gets super interesting. So now for every single person in the study, they had 2 scores, a diet score and a genetic score. It was time for the main event, diet versus DNA.
This was the big question, right? Does a good diet only really help people who already won the genetic lottery? Or could what you eat every day actually overcome let's say, a less than perfect genetic starting point?
And the answer that came back from the study was, honestly, it was a game changer. I'm going to read this quote directly because it's that important. It says that sticking to a healthy diet was linked to a lower risk of death and a longer life. And here's the kicker, regardless of longevity genes. Wow, let that sink in. It means a good diet worked for everybody, no matter what their genetic report card said.
So that's amazing, but what does it mean for you and me in the real world? Let's stop talking about percentages and risk scores for a second and talk about something we can all wrap our heads around, actual years added to your life. So what the researchers did was calculate how many extra years of life someone could expect to gain, say at age 45, if they switched from an unhealthy diet to one of the healthiest ones.
And for men, the numbers were pretty incredible. Making that switch was linked to gaining up to 3 extra years of life.
And for women, it was also a huge deal, a gain of up to 2.3 years. I mean, these aren't small potatoes. We're talking about a real, meaningful extension to your life.
Just take a look at these graphs, straight from the study. You've got men on the left, women on the right. See all those different colored lines? Each one is a different level of healthy eating. And it's so clear. The higher the diet score, the more years you gain. It's just a powerful visual that proves the point.
So in the end, it really seems like the science is telling us this. Your genes, that's the hand of cards you're dealt. But your diet, that's how you play the game. The power to add years to your life, it's literally on your plate. So the only question left is, what change are you going to make today?